Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I know that so many of you listeners this year, you want to leverage, of course, marketing as well as advertising and how the two are related in your business growth here in 2026. And that's why I'm so excited about today's guest, because let me tell you something. You all know how much I research our guests before these episodes, and today's guest absolutely rocks at what she does. I'm so excited for all of us to learn about her approach, the way that she's grown her agency, and most importantly, the relationships that she has with her clients in order to accelerate their success through advertising. So let me introduce you to today's guest. Her name is Kayla Bravo. Kayla is the owner and founder of Maverick Advertising, which is a digital advertising agency serving more than 50 clients with a focus on transparency, education, and strategy-driven results. With over 6 years in marketing and a year and a half running her own agency, Kayla has built Maverick on the values of all of those things, including education. That is something that's so rare when you work with an agency. Sometimes you find yourself thinking, well, hold on, what exactly are they doing? Why are they tweaking that? Why are we looking at these monthly? Why are we switching things? Kayla loves not just running it and getting strategy-driven results, but also that educational piece. She believes deeply in partnership. For her and her team, clients aren't just accounts, they're extensions of the Maverick family. Their problems become her problems, and their successes are celebrated as her own. Outside of work, you all will quickly see that Kayla is super passionate about a lot of things, including fitness, community, and coffee. You can either find her at Spindle City CrossFit or a coffee shop, and of course, that's the beauty of what it means to be an entrepreneur, is digging deep into your work. So I'm excited about this one. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Kayla Bravo. All right, Kayla, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
Heck yes, super pumped that you're here. We're going to dig a lot into advertising, especially here in 2026. Nobody wants to be the best kept secret, but Kayla, before we get there, take us beyond the bio. Who's Kayla? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Oh, that is a great question. So funny story. I actually went to school for accounting. I was super interested in just numbers and understanding data, I guess. And then as I started taking accounting too, I realized, I do not like this. So I quickly switched over to marketing. Thankfully, I had a great community around me. I went to Wingate University here in North Carolina, and I absolutely loved it. I had some great professors. They really motivated me. And I got a call one day from a friend who they were like, hey, we're hiring for an intern for advertising. And I was like, heck yeah. I was like, have a job before I even get out of college. I'm up for it. And as I started quickly going into it, I absolutely loved it. It was everything I wanted. It was the numbers. It was the kind of doing that content of understanding what works, what doesn't. But then also it's the relationships. I am a fiend for just talking to people, getting to know them, understanding their story and how I can help and fit into that. So it was definitely fun. And here I am, I am just enjoying it and loving every second of advertising and just getting to know more and more people.
Yeah, I love that overview, Kayla, especially because I can tell, and it obviously pops up right in the name of your company, is Maverick Advertising. I want to specifically start there with you because a lot of people, we talk about marketing and we throw that term around so loosely, and marketing includes a lot of things. It can probably also include branding. It certainly includes copywriting. It includes social media. There's content marketing. There's so many aspects of marketing, but I really want to hone in on something that you clearly love, which is that advertising piece of it. Tell us how advertising fits into that overall marketing mix, and why for you specifically is advertising so near and dear to your heart?
Yeah, of course. So it is funny that you say that. I think a lot of people, when they see Maverick, they automatically think marketing. So I've gotten people they'll be like, oh, I love Maverick marketing. I'm like, oh, we're actually Maverick Advertising. Funny story. And so it's always that kind of educational piece of letting people know what advertising is. Advertising is what you see on your phones, on your devices, on billboards. Unfortunately, we don't do that, but we do have people that we know that do it. So a lot of the things that we do are the digital things. We really specialize in digital advertising because we want to be the best that we can. I love companies that are the one-stop shop. Unfortunately, we're not at that size, and we're not that agency yet that can provide everything and anything. But also sometimes when you start providing so much for someone, it becomes a little complicated because you're so mixed in on every single aspect that you might miss out on something. But overall, advertising in general, how that kind of mixes in with the marketing is just everything. If you have a solid foundation, whether that be your website, your social medias, how you really brand yourself sets you up for success with advertising. And I've seen that so much with clients recently of you have one client that has an amazing website, has really put themselves out there, has driven that organic traffic and kind of built themselves up by themselves. And then when we pick up advertising, it makes it 10 times easier. But then you have the opposite side where unfortunately I had a client that decided to change their name, do all of these changes to their website. And it kind of like didn't help them in a way, but with advertising, we were able to kind of understand what works and what doesn't. And I love the beauty of it. People realize that with digital advertising, you can easily stop and start it. It's not like a billboard where if you make a mistake, that's going to stay on there for the next 30 days. So beware of what you put out there. But truly, I've just loved advertising because it has given me a way to kind of showcase these people. I love showing people off. I think that's one of my like love languages that they call it. I love kind of showing people off, giving them this opportunity to kind of showcase what they have. And so with advertising, I can help them do that. I can help them get their brand out there. I can help them be known and offer what they need to. And it's literally just with a click of a button and just being able to have those conversations with them and understand their needs and wants. And so it becomes so easy to kind of create this amazing plan for this one specific client.
Yeah, I love that, especially because in that contrast that you illustrated for us of a client who has an amazing foundation, and so it's really easy to get their advertising flow going versus a client that is constantly chopping and changing, hasn't narrowed in their messaging, hasn't narrowed in their positioning, and of course their brand reputation in the marketplace. That contrast shows that it's not the channel that works or doesn't work. We hear this from listeners all the time of like, oh, I've heard that Facebook ads doesn't work. I've heard that Google ads doesn't work. And it kills me because of course it works. It's working for some other people. If it's not working for you, it doesn't mean that the channel doesn't work. It means that your underlying strategy doesn't work. It means that your foundation doesn't work. So with that in mind, talk to us about what that foundation looks like. Because Kayla, you and I both know a lot of people have tried, I'm putting that in air quotes, have tried Facebook ads before and maybe wasted a little bit of money there in some tests because they didn't know what they were doing. What do we need to have foundationally before we can be successful with paid ads?
I absolutely love this question. And it's funny because I just met with a client yesterday, and my process is a little different with new clients. I do an audit. I kind of look at your foundation. I love looking at what you have. It's kind of like being nosy. You get to see the ins and outs of a company. You get to understand who they are, what they've done, what has worked, what hasn't. And so the way that I do this process of understanding this foundation is really looking at what your website looks like, just how that traffic is coming in. How are your social media platforms? I think you made a really good point is a lot of people think, oh, it doesn't work. Oh, I'm not getting the results I want. But they're expecting, I use the example, a lot of people want Nike results, but they don't have the Nike budget. And I'm very clear with that. The expectations are real. You can't expect to get 1,000 people into your website and filling out your forms when you're only spending maybe $200 or $300. Meanwhile, if you look at what Nike's spending, I don't think most of us have the budget to spend thousands of dollars every month, maybe like millions of dollars a year. So it's understanding where they're at. It's really key, honestly, to have expectations and make them clear in the beginning. A lot of clients, like I've just mentioned, have that expectation that they want all of this traffic. They want all of these conversions, all of these things that sometimes they're not prepared for. I had a client once, we started Google AdWords. It was a success. It was amazing to see how much traffic, how many people were filling out their forms. But unfortunately, they were like, we need to stop because we don't have the capacity to deal with that influx. And so that's when I kind of took a step back of, okay, let's look at the foundation. Let's be realistic with the expectations of what you want out of advertising. You can't handle 1,000, but you could probably handle 10 a week, maybe 100 a month. That's normal. So when it comes to that foundation aspect, I look at how your website is built out. There's amazing resources out there that allow you to kind of understand, are there any errors on your website? Is there anything that Google doesn't like about your website that we might need to kind of look at and just tweak a little bit just to make sure that we are checking all of the boxes that Google has, because they can be a pain sometimes, but they can also be an amazing tool if you have everything set up correctly. So if you have that right site traffic, site health, everything about that, but also a lot of it comes down to the patience that you have. Typically with Google, typically with a lot of other platforms like Facebook, there is a learning period. And I think people kind of forget that. They expect things to come here, there, right now. Like, I want all of these things. And it's not like that. You have to be patient with it. And with that patience, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to be able to understand who your audience is, what that demographic looks like, what the trends are. But also there's one key thing that I'm very honest with clients about is, why are they doing advertising? Is it because nothing else is working and this is their last resort? Or is it because they really want to take it up a step? And that's where the key line is that's where I can not necessarily judge, but understand who they are, and if they're going to expect results now, or if they're actually going to have the patience to kind of take away what we're giving them with all the data, with all of those different key points that we're going to be bringing up on monthly calls, on biweekly reviews, of understanding, okay, what's the next step now in this like customer journey or this process that we have here with these clients.
Ooh, Kayla, I feel like that is the most masterful qualification question that I've ever heard. I feel like we can all borrow that inside of our own businesses, whether we do paid advertising or not, is, why are you turning to this? If this is your last resort, I think that says a lot about the type of client that you're potentially about to take on. So that's really powerful. The other thing that I really want to echo from what you just shared with us is that for some reason, when people seem to play the paid ad game, they all of a sudden, their brains go towards, oh, this has to be a volume game. But what you just called out is 10 leads a week is incredibly powerful in 95% of businesses. It sounds like a small number, but 10 leads a week, 40 leads a month. Now we're talking almost 500 leads in the course of a year. If you are converting, let's say just 10% of those, that's 50 new clients for your business. And for a lot of businesses, that's an absolute game changer. So I really appreciate your emphasis there. But you also teased one of the important considerations in an ad campaign for us. You talked about people filling in a form. And obviously that is one of many calls to actions that are in your toolkit. Talk to us about that call to action, because Kayla, I hope today's episode is the one that tells people, never just send traffic blindly to your homepage. Don't just send traffic there and not have a plan with it. Talk to us about calls to actions and where we should send traffic.
Oh boy, that is so great. I love that you mentioned that, because like I mentioned, I did an audit the other day, and I kind of told them, I was like, what do you guys want out of this? I scrolled through their website and I kind of like showed them, I'm like, where on this does it tell you like, hey, schedule a tour, like fill out like this intake form? Where does it say that? And so it's funny that you say that, because a lot of the key things that people think about is they need to make this website pretty and amazing and just like standing out. And I understand that, because truthfully, the data speaks for itself. Most people, you have to wow them in the next 30 seconds. As soon as they land, you have 30 seconds to kind of give that elevator pitch, as we call it. They need to understand why they should keep scrolling. Why should they click on that CTA that you have that says schedule a tour or like contact us? Unfortunately, a lot of the times, especially with contact forms, people are just scared for many reasons. I think with all of these spam calls that we get nowadays, a lot of people just don't want to put their phone numbers out there. So I've made it very clear to a lot of clients, if we start seeing those trends, if people don't want to fill out their form, their like phone number, excuse me, I would say let's put like the email. Let's put their email out there. Obviously, people always have different emails. Like myself, I have one for all of my retail, and then one that's my professional email that I give to actual human beings. So it's understandable when there's different CTAs, but people need to make it very clear on like what their main goal is. You have so many different pages, but that main page is going to be the game winner. If you want someone to fill out a form, make that clear. If you want them to schedule a tour, put that out there, but also show why they should schedule a tour. Don't put a picture of people when in reality you're trying to get someone to come into the door to see your salon or see this amazing co-working space. Like, put those photos out there. And I think that's why understanding the foundation of someone's website and what they truly want out of it. One of the key things that was funny when I was saying there's a key question I ask is because someone once told me sometimes the people that are wanting to get things fast and normally spend the least amount are going to be the pain in your butts. And so sometimes you have to be very wise in what kind of customer do you want? And I know that sometimes that's being a little picky, but at the same time, you have to kind of set yourself up for success and understand, okay, who is it that I want to, who I want to work with. A lot of people have their own niches. A lot of people have like their verticals that they go for, but understanding who your client is and how you can help them, because sometimes you just don't have the experience. And I will say, and this is not, I don't think it's a toot my own horn. It's more of like, I love to understand and see, okay, these are the people I like to work with because not that they fit my group, but they are understanding and they know what they want. And I know that I can help them. If I don't have experience in a certain vertical or something, I'm very honest because I know I'm not going to take something on and give you false results or false expectations when in reality, I just don't know what this environment looks like, what this vertical looks like. So I love the educational piece of understanding who they are and if I can help with that. And that also comes with understanding their website and their CTAs and all of these different things that people have to offer. It becomes a lot. And so it can definitely be overwhelming at times to see so many CTAs on a website, but I try to be very clear, especially when it comes down to then when you're doing advertising on Google, you have to be very mindful of how many conversions you're tracking, how many things do you want to really showcase. And Google sometimes has its, like I call it, it can be picky sometimes because it only likes to do certain things. And so you have to teach it and it has to learn what you're trying to give it. So having too many CTAs can be a little overwhelming for Google. So you have to kind of train it for that. But then at the same time, people just need to be intentional and understand, okay, what is it that you really want? And are you ready for that influx? Because that's a huge thing. People are just expect results, but they don't know how to process them. And that can be very hard to it can be hard on our team because sometimes we think that's a reflection of our work, but in reality, like we did the work, but now you just don't want to continue because it just didn't benefit you the way that you wanted, or it benefited you too much. And now it's just like, okay, wait, so what is it that you want? So I think that's always like the main question of like, what is it that they're looking for? Because you can really tell by like what their response is.
Yeah, I want to pick on that theme of expectations, Kayla, and I definitely want to link it back to you emphasized patience so much in our conversation today, because one thing that I think is really tricky about talking about paid ads on a podcast episode or even in YouTube videos or even in really great advertising books is that we kind of squish the conversation. We talk about both lead capture, but we also talk about conversions as if these two things happen in this squished format. Of course, there's a life cycle to leads. There's nurturing of leads. There's a whole conversion strategy that takes place on the back end. But because of the squished nature of most of these conversations, I think most people conflate it and they think that, oh, when I run paid ads, if someone clicks my ad today and they opt in today, they're going to convert today. And of course, that is not typically the case. Talk to us about the back end life cycle of a lead, because paid advertising doesn't replace any of the things that we do manually in our sales processes. We still need to follow up. We still need to check in. We still need to have touch points. So what does that look like in your world?
Yeah. And this is exactly why I said some people just aren't prepared for it because their foundation isn't set up for it. A lot of people think, oh, I have a form fill on there. If they fill it out, I'm going to see exactly who it is. And so I always ask, okay, what's the next step? Do you have anything that automates that tells them like, hey, like they receive an email, or where does it go? Because they expect that from us. But in reality, that's something that's set up on your website that you need to make sure that you have properly set up, that you kind of have that like automation. I will say AI has helped a lot in that sense of people understanding how to use it and how to automate stuff, and having a really well set up CRM that gives you that kind of that customer journey, that like funnel of, okay, now we have this lead. Did they come to us from a contact us? Did they fill out a schedule a tour? Did they fill out just a, like, for example, on ours, we have a capability stack that shows us what we offer. So did they put in their email to get one of those? Like, you have to understand where they're coming from. And so it takes a lot of understanding who they are. And once you have that, it's kind of like you place them in categories, understanding, okay, if they scheduled a tour, they're ready. They want to come and see what you have to offer. If they just wanted some information, you have to be intentional on not pushing too much. Some people think that all of these like people that come in that fill out a form are all in the same category, and they're not. They're on different stages of life. And I always come to it in the sense of, so I have a client that's in the senior living industry, and I absolutely love them. And they're very realistic. They understand that the journey is different for everyone. There are people that need to move into a senior living community because they're ready for it. They need some type of assistance because the family can't help them. But then there are others that can take 30 to 60 days because they're about to move into an independent living. There's nothing wrong. It's just they're ready for a new stage of life, but they need to make sure that their house is sold, that they need to make sure all of their things are in order before they take their next step. And so I think that's where people have these false expectations that everybody is the same. And that's why for Maverick, my clients aren't the same. Therefore, my strategy is not going to be the same. Therefore, you have to be very intentional with the process, the strategies, how you can optimize and all those things. And so when it comes down to figuring out the leads that people get on their website, they have to be very intentional of understanding who these people are. They're not just a number. They are potential clients of yours. So you have to be very strategic on, okay, how do I set up my CRM? Do I need to make 3 different categories or 4 or 5, however many? Do I need to automate certain emails to make sure that they're following up? Because there are a lot of small businesses nowadays that it's a one-woman, one-man show. There's only 24 hours in a day. Hopefully you're sleeping 8 hours in that day, maybe a little more if you need it. But there's only so much that you can do as one person. And if you're a small business, it's understandable. You have to go out and kind of look for those CRMs, the ones that help you really set yourself up for success, because you might miss out on so many leads because you just weren't fully prepared for it. And unfortunately, I've seen that many, many times. And it's so sad because some people are like, I missed out on the one time like chance of my life, the one time opportunity to get this massive client. But because I didn't look at my email and didn't realize that that was like a potential lead, I just didn't, like, my email has 500 emails. So yes, sometimes people miss out because they don't have the proper setup. And that's why kind of understanding that foundation and seeing what they have is going to be essential to advertising, because some people want all those leads, like you said, but are they prepared for it? Are they ready? Are they set up to kind of get it? It's like, you're not going to go to, it's kind of like a funny example, but you're not going to go to war and not know what to do. Like, you have to know where you're going. It's like the simple things in life. Like, you're not going to do something. A surgeon doesn't go to a hospital and just start operating without knowing what he's doing or what he has to do. So you have to know what you want and how you're going to do it if you're going to do it properly.
Yeah, so well said. And Kayla, I feel like this really shows how many different considerations there are. This is all just for someone to be ready to advertise. And I think that there's so many important considerations. So I want to switch gears and talk to you not as the advertising expert that you are, but I want to talk to you as the agency owner, because it's right there in your bio that I teased at the top of today's episode that education is one of your core values. And hearing the way you talk about this stuff, I feel like it has to be, because there's so much that goes into educating clients on what a healthy advertising mindset looks like. What does that look like for you in terms of onboarding, in terms of consistent client communication throughout the process? Because I imagine that there are scary parts. You talked about the learning phase of any and every ad campaign, that you don't know what the perfect headlines are. Nobody on planet Earth does. You have to put it into the world. You have to let the market react, and you have to make data-driven decisions from there. But you, as the agency owner, you need to manage those client expectations along the way. So what does that look like in terms of managing those, of educating them along the way, and building up that healthy mindset for them?
Oh, yeah. So one of the key things, especially when we do onboarding with clients, the first thing I always tell them, and kind of like what you said in my bio, is I am an extension of their team. And in order for things to work, we need to communicate. I think that is said all around in relationships, in friendships, in work relationships, in anything that you do, you need to communicate. And so what I make that very clear with clients is, hey, what is going on in your world that I need to know about? I think a lot of people think that you're going to tell me, oh, I need to do advertising and I'm going to know everything. Unfortunately, I'm not God and I don't know everything. And so that's where I need to make it very clear to clients, okay, I need X, Y, and Z. This is the process. I'm very detailed with expectations and timelines because I understand that people have lives and we need to kind of manage them. I don't want to overwhelm my employees either with the amount of work that I'm giving them and expect them to get it turned around in a day. When in reality, it's going to take 2 to 3 days. That's with all assets done. And I like being very intentional with clients because not everybody knows what advertising is. Not everybody understands what Google ads is or what Facebook ads. There's a lot of kind of like, they know what it is, but they don't really know. And so when you start kind of talking to them, they're like, oh, does that mean you're going to boost my ads on like my social media pages? And I was like, no, not necessarily. Like, this is a whole different thing. And so it's really nice to kind of sit through the process. And that's why I said, we like to kind of sit down with clients, give them the full overview of like, hey, here's everything that we offer. That doesn't mean you have to take it. It means, hey, this is what we offer. Make more of like an educational aspect of here's what we have. If that fits, cool, we will do it. But it also depends on like budget recommendations and all that stuff. But overall, the timeline of when we kind of sit down with clients and understand, okay, who they are. It starts off with just learning. It starts off with, hey, tell me more about yourself. It's kind of like dating in a way. And it's weird to say that because I had a client once say, you understand we're never going to leave you. At this point, we're married. So it's like, we're going to have to get a divorce and that's going to be messy. And we don't want to do that. And so I think about it that way. It's like, I'm getting to know my clients and understand what their needs are, how I can help. What is it that I can do to offload some things on their plate? Some people don't realize that with advertising, there comes a lot of research. Like I have to understand who your competitors are, what type of demographic. And so we do a lot of that. And they think that they need to do all of that. But there are some times where understanding what they've done and the history that they have obviously makes it so much easier for us to do our job. And so like I said, it's a dating process. You start talking, you really get to know them, understand what they like, what they don't like, understand how they like things. The way that we report, we do monthly calls, we do bi-weekly emails of just like, hey, letting you know, but we also communicate when things just don't look right. Hey, we're starting to see like a downtrend. Is there anything going on your end that you want to let us know about? And lo and behold, every time we send that email, they're like, oh my God, how did you know? And I'm like, trust me, the ads speak for themselves. So having that open communication is the key thing in just this relationship that we have with our clients. And like I said in the beginning, I love getting to know people. I love just understanding who they are because I feel like that's what we are. We're an extension. Their success is our success. Their problems are our problems because we're trying to help them. We know that we've done our job when we get on those calls and they're like, hey, no, we have nothing to discuss. Keep doing what you're doing. We love it. We keep getting leads. Like those are the calls that make me happy. But also we love a challenge. I'm not going to say we don't. But when things aren't working, that doesn't mean you stop. That means like you have to pivot. You have to kind of understand, okay, is there something that we just don't know? There's something that we're not seeing. And so people need to have that patience, like we talked about, of understanding this can be a long game, But sometimes 30 days, you can tell what works and what doesn't. And the beauty of digital advertising is you can start it, you can stop it, you can change it. You don't have to wait the 30 days to then do something different. And that's why I made that joke of the billboard is like, you have to be careful what you put out there because it's going to stay up there for a long time. Meanwhile, with digital advertising, we can pivot, we can do things differently. And so I'm always very like intentional and very clear with clients. Like, if you don't like something, we're going to do something about it. But you also have to understand that this is a long-term game. This isn't something where, oh, you got the leads that you wanted and now you stop. Because we've also had those problems where people think, oh, we got what we wanted. And then 6 months down the line, they're like, oh, by the way, we're back. And I'm like, that's not how it works. Like, you want to continuously like build that clientele, whether that be growing your team as well. And that's something that Maverick has had to do too. Like I said, it's not easy when it's a one-woman show. But when you have a team that is very like-minded, but also some people that think outside the box can really help. And it kind of builds you and your team and kind of grows us for success because we know that we can help anybody that comes in through the door. And we're always prepared for that.
Yes, I love that. I feel like there's so many nuggets of knowledge in there, even entrepreneur to entrepreneur. It's really cool to hear the way that you think about this stuff with your founder's hat on. And Kayla, I told you that time would fly by together here on the air, and it certainly has. And I'm going to ask you to keep that founder hat on for the answer to this last question. It's super broad. You can take it in any direction you want. And that is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys. And as a fellow entrepreneur, what's that one thing that you want to leave them with today?
So this doesn't have to do with advertising. I am going to give the advice of don't let fear overtake you. Take that risk. And that comes from someone that took a risk and has definitely paid off. And I've seen also how friends, family, have not allowed fear to overtake them, and they've taken that risk. Unless you obviously have a wall in front of you that you can't surpass, I get it. But if it's just a mental thing, don't let that kind of put you down. Don't let that be the thing that stops you from becoming an entrepreneur. I would have never thought in my 28 years of life that I would be an entrepreneur. But then looking back at the risks and the different things that my family has overcome, yes, that's prepared me for success. Have I had my bumps in the road where I've had fear and I thought that I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy to do this? It's wrong. That's a mental thing. Don't let that fear stop you from taking the risk. And if you're fearful of doing advertising, don't. Like I said, it's something that you can change. You can pivot. You can do something cool and innovative with it. Don't be afraid to take that risk, whether that be in advertising, whether that be with wanting to start your own business. Take the risk, because there's so many opportunities out there that people just haven't taken just because they're just fearful. And I'm telling you, don't do it. Just take the risk. Do it. Trust me, you will not regret it.
Yes. Oh gosh, that is so true. I'm 17 years into my entrepreneurial journey, and I feel so strongly that you're right. Kayla, you alluded to the many ups as well as the many downs that happen inevitably along an entrepreneurial journey. But I often remind people the juice is worth the squeeze. Yes, there are so many things we have to work for, but I really love that advice for our listeners. And I'm super excited for them to see all this stuff in action, because I feel like even as far as you are into Maverick Advertising's journey, you have such a clear message. You have such a clear relationship based approach to the way that you do this work. And I love the fact that you're growing your team. I love the fact that your clients are operating in really cool areas. You have such a cool client roster, Kayla. So for people who want to check out Maverick Advertising online, drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Yeah. So we have a website, it's maverickadco.com, and then also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Maverick Advertising. You can find us there, and we'd love to help you. Any questions that you guys have, I would love to just have a conversation. Anything I can do to help.
Yes, and listeners, you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. We're also dropping the link to Kayla's personal LinkedIn. So if you want to find her, reach out to her individually or just follow all the goodness that she's putting out into the world. Definitely check those links out down below in the show notes. Otherwise, Kayla, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
No, thank you guys.